Space was not quiet, it only seemed that way to those who didn't know how to listen. To Captain Verrick of the XRS Mercy, every frequency was a whisper, every faint transmission a cry for survival. The galaxy was full of ghosts, and he feared he had just become one of them. The bridge lights flickered again, bathing the Zari crew in alternating shades of blood-red emergency glow and the pale, failing white of exhausted power reserves. Smoke drifted lazily through the stale air as the ventilation system struggled to keep up with the damage. Verrick stood in the center of the bridge, chitinous mandibles clicking together as he stared at the console before him. The distress beacon pulsed once every 8 seconds, each pulse a reminder of what he had done. "We should have stayed silent," hissed Lieutenant Sarin, his carapace dark with soot from the earlier explosions. He hunched over the sensor display, claws tapping nervously against the edge of the console. "The pirates will have heard it too. We are inviting them back to finish the job." Verrick turned slowly to face him, his multifaceted eyes catching the dying bridge lights. "And if we had stayed silent, we would be dead by now," he replied, his voice low, resonant, commanding. "Do you think they would simply let us limp away after destroying half their flotilla? They will return whether we call for help or not. Better to die trying to summon aid than to drift helpless until their guns finish us." Around him, the crew shifted uncomfortably, their antennae twitching. Everyone knew the captain was right, but that didn't make it easier. The distress signal was meant to be a lifeline, but out here, on the very edge of Zari-controlled space, it was more like tossing bait into the waters of a predator's world. You never knew who might answer. And then, against all odds, someone did. The sensor station let out a soft, almost hesitant ping. Sarin froze, his antennae straightening so fast they nearly brushed the ceiling. "Captain, we have a response." The bridge went silent. Every officer stopped what they were doing, mandibles clicking softly in disbelief. "A response? Out here? Source?" Verrick asked, his voice a quiet rasp. Sarin's claws danced over the console, pulling up the data. His mandibles parted slightly as he stared at the readout. Unknown signature. No collective transponder. No guild markings. No pirate encryption. The crew glanced at one another uneasily. Out here, there were few things worse than an unidentified signal. "Put it through," Verrick ordered. The transmission came through as a short burst of binary code. The ship's translation software worked for a few seconds, then spat out a single, chilling phrase onto the main view screen. "We heard you. Hold position. No identification. No hailing frequency. Just a command." Verrick's mandibles clicked together sharply. Who would answer like this? There is no diplomacy, no request for authentication. "The signal is repeating," Sarin whispered, "but... Captain, this isn't from anyone we know. The carrier wave is strange. Old-fashioned. Brutal. Like it was sent to be understood by anything with ears." Verrick's antennae curled tightly against his skull. He remembered the stories, whispered legends passed between captains during long-haul flights. Stories of a species the galaxy had pushed into isolation centuries ago, a species so dangerous that their star cluster had been declared forbidden space. Deathworlders, they had been called. Savage. Unyielding. The kind of species that built weapons first and asked questions later. The kind that, if they ever answered your call, might destroy more than they saved. "Kill the beacon," Verrick ordered at last. His voice was calm, but every eye on the bridge snapped toward him in shock. "Captain?" Sarin asked hesitantly. "If we do, we will vanish again. No one else will come." "That," Verrick said, "is exactly the point." But as Sarin's claws reached for the controls, the ship shuddered violently. The lights dimmed completely, plunging them into the crimson glow of emergency power. A deep vibration rolled through the hull, the kind of resonance that could only mean one thing. Gravity wake, Sarin croaked. His claws trembled above the console. Something massive is emerging from FTL right on top of us. Every officer on the bridge froze. The air itself seemed to thicken, humming with unseen pressure. And then, with a soundless flash of ruptured space, it arrived. The ship was vast. It was not sleek like collective designs, nor spindly and curved like pirate raiders. This thing looked like it had been forged in the heart of a dying star and beaten into shape by war itself. Its hull was plated in thick slabs of blackened metal, each one scarred from previous battles. Weapon emplacements bristled across its surface, tracking automatically even as the ship drifted into position. Its presence filled the viewport, eclipsing the stars. No one spoke. No one breathed. This is not collective, Sarin whispered. Identify it. Verrick barked, but his command was unnecessary. The computer was already struggling to parse the incoming data. After several seconds, a name appeared on the screen. UNS Revenant. And below that, a simple status code, active response. No one on the bridge knew what UNS meant. But the stories, the old stories, screamed in Verrick's mind. His claws clenched around the railing as he stared at the titanic vessel now hanging in space above them. Deathworlders, someone breathed from the back of the bridge. Verrick said nothing. He just stared at the monstrous ship, his mandibles clicking softly as a deep and primal truth settled over him. They had called for help. And something far, far worse than pirates had just answered. The Revenant did not move like a ship. It moved like a predator. Every thruster burn was precise, every course correction impossibly smooth. The sheer size of the vessel should have made it sluggish, but instead it glided across the void as though the stars themselves parted to make way for it. The HFY Mercy drifted helplessly nearby, its scarred hull shuddering as the shockwaves from the human ship's arrival washed over it. On the Zari bridge, silence reigned. Even the ship's damaged systems seemed to quiet themselves, as if holding their breath. The great vessel loomed outside the viewport, blotting out entire constellations. Then the hail came. A soft tone, deceptively ordinary, cut through the bridge speakers. Incoming transmission, Sarin said quietly. His mandibles clicked against each other like chattering teeth. Captain, it's audio and visual. Verrick felt his claws tighten on the command railing. His crew was already stretched thin, their nerves burned to threads by battle and fear. He wanted to shield them from whatever was coming, but he knew that was impossible. Put them through. The main view screen flickered to life. A human appeared. The crew flinched as one. The figure on the screen was unsettlingly still, his posture upright, his uniform a severe charcoal gray marked with an insignia none of the Zari recognized. His face bore pale scars across the cheek and temple, and his eyes, sharp, glacial, unreadable, locked on Verrick as though pinning him in place. You sent a distress signal, the human said. His voice was steady, calm, not cold, but stripped of any hint of uncertainty. We came. Verrick's throat clicked as he tried to find words. We did not expect. It doesn't matter what you expected, the human cut in, not unkindly but with the precision of a blade. Your message said you were under attack. Where? The captain hesitated. Was this a trap? The stories said the humans were dangerous, volatile, even feral when provoked. But something in the human's gaze was steadying. This was not a pirate asking where to strike next. This was a soldier asking where to deploy. The pirates will return within one cycle, Verrick said at last. There were 6 vessels. Raiders, modified for speed and ambush. They hit our convoy and fled before we could respond. Half my escorts are gone. Our drive cores are crippled. The human gave the faintest of nods. Send me their vectors. Verrick's crew exchanged uneasy glances. Sharing that information was a risk, an enormous one. But what choice did they have? Their distress signal had already brought this predator to their side. They could either trust it, or be torn apart when the pirates came back. "Transmit the data," Verrick ordered softly. Saren's claws trembled as he keyed the transfer. The bridge waited in absolute stillness. When the console chimed confirmation, the human's eyes narrowed slightly as though studying prey. "Received," he said. "Hold position. Do not power your weapons." Then the transmission cut. The bridge erupted in anxious chatter. "What does that mean?" hissed one officer. "Are they leaving? They told us not to arm our weapons, why?" Verrick silenced them with a sharp gesture. "Because," he said slowly, antennae twitching toward the viewport, "they are about to do what we cannot." Outside, the Revenant came alive. The massive ship rotated with frightening precision, its engines flaring to life with a deep blue radiance that lit up the void. Along its armored flanks, weapon systems extended and locked into position, great batteries of cannons, missile tubes, and railguns that glowed faintly as power surged through them. A low hum resonated through the HFY Mercy's hull, a sound felt more than heard, like the purr of a massive hunting beast ready to strike. Then, without ceremony, the Revenant jumped. It did not simply vanish. The space around it twisted, stars bending like reeds in a storm before snapping back as the vessel tore into faster-than-light travel. The shockwave rattled the Zari frigate so hard that several crew had to grip their stations to stay upright. And then there was nothing. Minutes bled into hours. The bridge remained silent except for the occasional hiss of damaged conduits or the faint groan of the hull. Every crew member's eyes kept darting back to the viewport as though expecting the human ship to reappear, or for the pirates to arrive first. When the sensors finally blared a proximity alert, Verrick's mandibles clicked sharply. "Report. Contact, returning object on approach vector." Saren cried. "Mass signature matches the human ship." The Revenant dropped back into real space with the same terrifying grace as before. But this time, it was not alone. The viewport filled with wreckage. 6 pirate ships, or what was left of them, drifted behind the Revenant like grotesque ornaments. Their hulls were blackened and ruptured, their power cores shattered. One vessel still burned, venting glowing gas into the void. Another was neatly split in half, its twisted bulkhead sparking silently as it tumbled end over end. The human ship had towed them back. "By the First Mother," Saren whispered. They brought them here?" The hail tone chimed again. Verrick swallowed hard and nodded to open the channel. "Threat neutralized," the human said. There was no triumph in his voice, no gloating. It was a simple report. "Your convoy is clear. Proceed to nearest port for repairs." Verrick's mandibles worked silently for several seconds before he managed to speak. What do you want in return?" The human's expression softened slightly, though his eyes remained as sharp as ever. "Nothing," he said. "You asked for help. We answered." And with that, the transmission cut for the last time. The Revenant turned away, its engines flaring as it accelerated back into the dark. Within moments, it was gone, leaving only silence, and 6 mangled pirate hulks spinning slowly in the void. Verrick let out a long, unsteady breath. The bridge was still frozen, crew staring at the viewport as though waking from a dream. Whatever the humans were, they had just saved them. But the sight of those ruined pirate vessels, each one destroyed with surgical brutality, was burned into their minds. The Zari would never forget what they had seen. Nor would the galaxy, once word spread. And Verrick suspected that was exactly what the humans intended. The return to Zari space should have been a victory lap, but Captain Verrick felt only the weight of silence. The HFY Mercy limped across the stars, its drive cores barely functional, hull scorched, half its crew in the infirmary. But the real cargo they carried back was not the salvage or the dead, it was the story. The image of 6 pirate hulks drifting behind a ship that should not have existed. The memory of the human who looked into Varric's soul and simply said, "We came." By the time the frigate reached the first functioning relay station, the Story had already outrun them. Word had spread through the relay network like fire in dry grass. Merchants, mercenaries, and freighters all repeated it. An unknown warship had obliterated a pirate pack in the Veil Expanse. A ship with no known transponder, no council registry, flying under a banner no one recognized, 3 stark letters stamped in harsh white against a black hull, UNS. When Verrick finally stood before the Zari High Council to report, the chamber was already buzzing. Holographic projections of the Revenant hovered above the council floor, its jagged silhouette rotating slowly as councillors whispered and argued among themselves. "You are certain this was no collective vessel?" demanded High Speaker Tsen, her antennae drawn back tight. "No experimental warship?" "I am certain," Verrick said, voice low but unwavering. "Its design is unlike anything in our archives. Its weapon systems, its engines, they were beyond what we are capable of producing. It fought 6 ships alone and was not even scarred." The chamber erupted in agitated clicks and murmurs. "Then we must consider the implications," another counselor said sharply. "The humans were supposed to be contained. Their system quarantined. Yet now they have warships wandering the void, answering signals not meant for them. And yet," Verrick interrupted, his voice cutting through the noise, "they saved us." The chamber quieted. Verrick's multifaceted eyes swept across the assembly. "They could have ignored us. They could have let the pirates finish the job. They did not. They acted when no one else would. And they asked for nothing in return." A younger counselor leaned forward. "Perhaps this is their way of declaring themselves. Of reminding the galaxy that they still exist, and that they are not to be ignored." Verrick thought of the human's face on the view screen, the cold efficiency in his voice. No, he decided, that hadn't been a message of intimidation. It had been something far more dangerous. It had been a promise. Beyond Zari space, the Story took on a life of its own. Merchants began whispering of the Reaper's shadow, a ghostly warship that appeared where convoys were attacked, leaving only wreckage in its wake. Pirate bands grew restless, their raids fewer and further between. Some even abandoned entire sectors rather than risk facing the thing that had reduced 6 of their number to molten slag. On the far side of the galaxy, in the halls of the Galactic Council, ambassadors argued in frantic tones. "The humans are mobilizing," one shouted. "If we do not act, they will destabilize the entire balance of power." Another ambassador's voice was softer, but no less sharp. "Or perhaps they are already part of the balance. The pirates have bled us for decades. If a single human ship can wipe out an entire flotilla," she let the thought hang in the air. "Then perhaps we are safer with them out there than without." No consensus was reached. There never would be. The galaxy was too fractured, too fearful. But every faction, every fleet, every power block heard the same story and quietly reached the same conclusion. The humans were no longer sleeping. For Verrick, there was no question. The memory of that silent arrival, the way the stars had seemed to vanish behind the Revenant's bulk, stayed with him. He dreamed of that cold voice, that simple declaration, "We came." Weeks later, when a new distress signal came from a mining colony 3 sectors away, Verrick stood on the bridge of his repaired ship and hesitated. There were other options. He could route the call to the collective fleet and wait days for a response. He could ignore it and pray the pirates lost interest. But as he stared at the beacon, a thought took root and refused to leave. Slowly, deliberately, Verrick opened a channel to the frequency he had saved, one no Zari captain should have ever used again. "This is Captain Verrick of the HFY Mercy," he said. "Requesting assistance. Coordinates attached." The bridge crew stared at him in shocked silence. Saren's antennae trembled. "Captain, are you sure?" No, Verrick admitted. But I would rather take my chances with the Deathworlders than let the Void have them. For long moments, there was nothing but static. Then, the view screen lit with a single message. We heard you. Hold position. Verrick exhaled slowly, the tension bleeding out of him. The crew looked to him for orders, their fear mingled with something else, something new. Hope. Hours later, the stars rippled. The Revenant returned, its vast shadow falling over the convoy like a guardian's cloak. This time, no one reached to kill the beacon. No one whispered of old legends or cursed their luck. Instead, the Zari stood straighter at their stations. Because now they understood. The galaxy had called for help. Humanity had answered. And nothing, pirates, councils, or fate itself, would ever stand in their way again.